All right, you guys, we're doing unit 2 now. So unit 2 was like the open and closed circles, all of these weird inequality symbols. Let me just refresh your memory on how to do these. I'm going to get through as many as I can. And yeah, we're going to put some on our note card or our note sheet also. So for this very first problem, I see this as like 2 different problems, okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by -2, so I get x all by itself. And do you remember, wow, we really need to put this on our note sheet. When you divide by a negative, what are you supposed to do? That means we need to flip this sign, okay? So there's a lot that's going to happen here. I canceled my 2's, so that means that I have just x on this side. This sign is going to flip. It's going to go this way now because I divided by a negative sign. And anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you're going to flip your sign. And 10 divided by -2 is -5. That's one of my answers. Okay, how about on this side? Here's a different equation. X divided by 3. Do you know what the opposite of divide by 3 is? It would be multiply by 3. So I'm going to do that on each side. Multiply by 3, multiply by 3. That cancels, so I just get x. This is a positive number, so I don't have to do anything to this sign. It's going to stay exactly the way that it is. And 5 times 3 is 15. Be careful that when you write your multiply sign that it kind of looks the way I have it written as 5.3. That's a multiply sign. I multiplied this side by 3 and I'm multiplying this side by 3, so I got 15. Okay, so this is technically the inequality. And when you're taking your multiple choice test, read these signs really carefully, okay? The graph. So remember that we have to put 2 different like dots on the graph, one of them at -5 and one of them at 15. And remember they're supposed to go in order. So the negative should go first. The negative signs are on the left and the positive ones are on the right. Remember? Like 0 in the middle. Okay. So -5, that's one of my answers, and 15 is another one of my answers. Because this -5 has the equal bar with it, that means a closed circle. So I'm going to fill it in and close it. So maybe I should write this. Closed. This one is open because it doesn't have the equal bar with it. See this little line underneath? That means closed. This one does not have a line with it, so that means open. So I'm going to put an open blue circle on this one. Okay, and for the -5, the arrow is pointing to the left. That means I shade this way. See this arrow? It's like an arrow without a stick. It's going left, just like this one is. So I'm going to shade like that. Okay. For the 15, the arrow is pointing to the right. That means this way. So, good. Right there. And look really carefully at the multiple choice answer choices for closed circles and open circles. Okay, now interval notation. Okay, so we always do interval notation left to right. It looks like the shading is going left forever, so I'm going to start with -infinity. And I'm going to go until -5, and that has a bracket. So remember, because it is a closed circle, that's when you use a bracket. And remember how parentheses are always going on infinity. So this is because it's closed. I'm just making little notes. Okay, and then I have no shading here, so there's a little gap there, and then I start my shading again at the whole number of 15, and that's an open circle, which means a parentheses. And then it goes to the right forever, so that means infinity. Remember, technically you're supposed to put this little U symbol in the middle. That just means there's more than one section. So this part right here, with a bracket on the -5. And remember, this is a negative infinity because it's going left. That's towards all the negative numbers. This is a positive infinity here because it goes to the right forever. Arrow to the right, positive infinity. And this 15 is an open circle, so it has a parentheses. I'm going to add that into my answer real quick. Okay, that was a lot. There's a lot of things going on for those problems. Let me try number 11. I'm going to try and get the x by itself, and these are all sandwiched together, so that means I can just leave it all stuck together, but I'm going to divide this by 8, divide this by 8, and divide this by 8. So this kind of is like 3 different equations. Well, 2 different equations, compound. They're stuck together. So I'm going to divide 8 here, divide 8 here, divide 8 here. That's going to give me -2. And no, I don't have to flip anything because I'm dividing by a positive 8. So these two signs are going to look exactly the way they already do. X's, the 8's cancel. That's going to stay exactly the way it is. 56 divided by 8 is 7. Okay, what does this mean? This is my inequality. So look very carefully at your answer choices for the multiple choice. I have two answers that need to go on the number line, -2 and 7. Here's -2, open circle. Here's 7, closed circle. Make sure that you understand why. This does not have the equal bar with it, so that means it's open. This does have the equal bar with it, that means it's closed. And look at the way that X is written here. It is in between this and this. That means X is between -2 and 7. That means you shade in between. Okay, so when X is written like that, you don't have to think about which way am I supposed to shade. If X is sandwiched in between two numbers, that means you shade in the middle of the two numbers. And so look, now these arrows, they're not shaded. So I don't have to use infinities when I do the interval for this one. But I am going to start with a parentheses on -2 because that is not a closed circle, which means a parentheses. Just like over here, this was open, so the 15 got a parentheses. And I'm going to put comma 7 with a bracket. This is a closed circle, so that means that the 7 gets a bracket. Just like this one over here was a closed circle, and that got a bracket. Okay, so what's the difference between these two? Why does this one have infinities and this one doesn't? This one has infinities because look at the graph. You're shading to the left forever and to the right forever. And we have this little U symbol because I have 2 sections of shading. On this one, I only have 1 section of shading, and I'm not shading left forever or right forever. I'm starting at -2, parentheses, ending at 7, bracket. Let's try this one. This is a Grator question, which means I'm going to split and write 2 different inequalities. 3x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 14. Step 1 is to just drop these absolute value bars, and you're going to write the equation exactly the way you see it without these bars. That's what you do first. The second one I'm going to do is do 3x minus 1, flip, negative. So notice how this sign flipped, and notice how this number became negative. That's how you set up your very 2 equations. And now what I'm going to do is solve each of them. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I'm going to try and not run out of room. That gives me 13, divide by 3, x greater than or equal to 13 over 3. That's one of my answers. That doesn't reduce. You can turn it into a decimal if you want. I think I'll leave it as that kind of fraction. Over here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I get 3x less than or equal to -13, divide 3, x less than or equal -13 thirds. That's my other answer. I just realized I made a mistake on this side. Hello, 14 plus 1 is not 13. My bad. Let me erase that. It should just make those 15s. Sorry for the mistake. And then 15 over 3, that reduces to 5. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Sorry for the mistake. Okay, so I have 2 different answers that I want to put on my number line. And remember, they have to go in the right order. By the way, I'm getting a little bit messy. Here's one inequality, here's the other one. So those are our 2 answers. And I'm going to put those numbers on the number line. The negative number goes first, then the positive number. They have to go in the correct order. -13 over 3 and 5. They look like they're both closed circles. This has an equal bar and this has an equal bar, so that is great. I'm going to put a dot there and a dot there. Closed circles. And which way do I shade? So this one's telling me to go to the right of 5. So I'm going to find 5 and shade to the right. That's this way. And this one is telling me to go left of the fraction. So here we go. Why did I not flip for any of these? Because I didn't ever multiply or divide by a negative. Look at the dividing I did here. That's a positive number, so this sign stayed the exact same the whole time. I divided by a positive number here, so this sign stayed the exact same the whole time. Only time you flip is when you write your two equations. Step 1 is to write exactly this the way you see it and solve. Just drop the absolute value bars. The second one is exactly the same this part, but you flip this sign and make this number negative. And then you just solve both of them, and that's just the rule. The interval notation is going to look just like this one because we have two sections. Only difference is these are both going to be brackets because they're both closed circles. So I'm shading to the left forever, which means negative infinity to negative 13/3 bracket, another section, starting at 5, going to the right forever. Okay, very last one. Let's see, I'm going to do, when we did these less than problems, we just brought this over to this side with a negative. Okay, so this exactly came over here with the sign pointing the exact same way. We'll put an example like this on our note card. You just make this a negative sign. That becomes negative. And then I just solve it exactly like I did the other one. So first what I'm going to do is -2 everywhere. I get -12, negative x, 8. And here's something crazy. I need to divide both sides by -1 to get the x by itself. And when you divide by a negative, do you remember what happens? You are supposed to flip all of the signs. I'm going to make a note to myself. Flip. Okay, so 12 divided by negative 12 divided by -1 is 12. Flip. Negative x divided by -1 is just x. Flip. 8 divided by -1 is -8. Technically, these numbers are supposed to go in order, okay? Therefore, if I'm going to reverse this entire thing, I'm going to write -8 less than x less than 12, and this is likely the way your multiple choice answer is going to be. Whoa, 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 why did I flip again? Technically, I didn't. Think about like looking at it in a mirror. The arrow here is pointing to the -8. It is still pointing to the -8. Inequalities are really weird, but if you're going to rewrite the numbers, you have to flip your signs too, because -8 is supposed to be on the left and +12 is supposed to be on the right, because when we graph it, it's supposed to be in this order. These are going to be open circles for both of them. And then remember, just like this problem, when it's written with x sandwiched in between two numbers, you shade in between those two numbers and you don't have to think too hard about it. So here's my shading. And I'm not using the infinities at all. My shading begins at -8 with a parentheses because this is an open circle. And I stop shading at 12 with a parentheses again. So that, you guys, is Unit 2. I know that was only 4 problems, but there's a lot of things going on. So if you watch this video, good job. You're going to crush those problems on the final. Really proud of you.